And let's go. Go. All right. So yes. All right, all right. Hope everyone is doing well. Hope everyone's doing right. It's Richie Rich back yet again, and in this episode, guys and girls, I'm doing another collab video. So it's where it's like I bring on like guests, onto this channel and we just talk about, their journeys, their walks in lives, their experiences, it's like give them a chance, just to talk about it. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest. We were just talking about this even before we started recording of how like when we cross paths, it's like the energy that we were making, man. It's like we knew each other. We were longer in that, So yes, I'm gonna introduce Ez. Wait, let's give a round of applause for that. Ez, how are you doing today, sir?
Good. I'm happy to be here. Happy to see you again. As you mentioned, we met in the airport. It was like this person has an amazing energy. Happy to be connected and happy to be diving into a conversation together today.
Yes. I remember that day on the airport, like so much. That was a very eventful day. Let's just say that. We were in Toronto, making our way back to Mexico City, and oh yeah, it was very interesting, but we start with as to like the people, gonna see it's like your background, you know what I mean? Like how, growing up, just like coming up, how is your story? Let's go for that.
Yeah, my story. Oh my goodness,
Yeah, I was
so
like,
many
I'm very late.
different possible directions. Yeah, well, maybe I could start with today and maybe working my way backwards.
Right,
And I can,
yeah.
switching it up a little bit.
Just we did the
Yeah, and I'll use some words that people may or may not understand, but you can always ask me if they're not clear. But essentially, I work as a facilitator, coach, learning experience designer, freelance digital nomad vibes right now, really helping teams and organizations. Connect to sort of a sense of playful vitality when they're working together. So even if you're working on a strategic plan or having communication issues or having conflicts that are arising in a team or organization or just in your personal life, how do you look at those challenges and navigate them in a light and playful way, despite the fact they're also very deep and full of tension and meaning. So that's what I do as today. And right now I'm currently in Bogota in Colombia. Beautiful city. I've been here just for a little bit. And what led me here was a sort of winding path where I studied human communication, innovation and management, all sorts of different coaching, all sorts of different things. And really, I guess a defining part of my life has really been that desire to explore and to learn a lot. And so that when you talk about where I come from, I think I definitely come from a place in my life of wanting to see different horizons. Yes. If I arrive often at like a new site or destination or retreat center, often my first thing is like I want to like walk around and I want to see everything. Yes. And some people will arrive and be like, I want to like sit down, chat, like enjoy. And I'm like, no, I do want to do that. Yes. But first, I need to know like what is everything that's here.
Yeah. You go to this new environment and it's like it's your duty to go see. You want to see, like, again, as you said, the horizon. You want to see over the mountains. To really take in, where you are. Currently.
Oh, totally. And I think I have a philosophy around life that, just the sense of really wanting to experience the full breadth of colors and emotions and possibilities. So I'm not just talking about happiness here and just all the happy things. I'm talking about the full picture. And at one point, I think I realized that I needed all of it. I didn't want to be living the gray. I didn't want to be living the gray cubicle thing. I was like, I need all of it. I need all of it.
Right. We're going to talk about the gray cubicle. For someone who was in that zone for a bit. Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of why I'm now in this position now, so definitely, so like with that, like with your journeys, like, traveling, like where have some of the places, like notable places you've been around,
Yeah, so well, I've really enjoyed traveling. Slow travel, I guess is the term. I don't like to arrive somewhere in 2-3 days, look at the sights, go out for a drink and then leave. I really have just a deep desire to understand, embrace, develop deeper relationships. And in my experiences, often it takes, a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to even begin. Like, and it's not even like you're not even beginning to understand anything, but at least you're beginning to know where the corner store is. At least you're like able to have like one or two people that maybe you know their names and you can say hi to. Yes. But so I've traveled in like this. I've been doing the distance work thing for about 5 months now, and I've been in Costa Rica and El Salvador and Mexico and Colombia. And I think at different points in my life, I've traveled in other parts of the world. But this section of things of working while traveling has really been in Latin America.
Right. Yes. So now it's like, you being in Latin America, I'm in Latin America, Mexico. What would you say, like from like differences from being like in Latin America and where we're coming from, like Canada? From that in Latin America. Would you say that? Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's a difference. Oh yeah. On a personal level, I feel here often really like I don't need to explain myself to people, and that there's like a base desire to connect and celebrate, which a lot of people hold here. Yes. And that's one beautiful thing. Mm-hmm. And then also just differences. I find that there's every single thing is different, like work, relationships, timing, like food, dancing, culture.
Food is a big one. Yeah.
It's like, I'm trying to think of like what's maybe another question would be like what's the same? Yes. And I guess what's the same is that there are beautiful, kind people that are very different as well.
Yeah. You'll find very much, as said it best, the people, especially like in, Mexico, very welcoming. I mean, it's like they really like, say bienvenido, welcome.
Yeah, bienvenido.
Oh man, they say they'll ask you where you from, the areas, your case. So it's like they're really more accepted. And I will even say, even in like, from being in Mexico and traveling around, there is definitely like this more traditional kind of way of living. Did you experience that as, of like, the food, the culture,
Yeah, well, in my experience, it's both. It's both more traditional, but also more liberated. For instance, in Colombia, like it's a very Catholic culture. So that's kind of like, there's like this, it's deep Catholic background that applies to every aspect of life, morality, relationships and everything. But then at the same time, you have some of the biggest clubs in the world and people who love to party. And those things just kind of coexist in like a happy mix.
Yes, like a mixture of that. Yeah, nice. So with this like thing, especially like the way things happen like 2 years ago, a lot of people had their jobs, and it's like from what happened in 2020, it's like most people moved on to doing like remote, and as you like digital nomad life, I'll ask the question as from like doing this like the digital nomad life, does it give you that freedom of like it's like you can now be here, and as you said, like slow travel that you could not get higher before?
Like I get the freedom. I think I would say I got the freedom, and freedom comes at a cost. How's that?
That's a good way.
It's like I definitely have moments of feeling like, oh my goodness, like how amazing, like how beautiful to be able to go to different places in the world and just be like, arrive somewhere and then just walk out into the neighborhood and like enjoy it, and then go back in and do like a Zoom call. Is incredible. And I'd say the cost for me is really it's that like I almost like it's like that 2000s understanding of a relationship. Like where often in my life anyways, during that time period, I was very much focused on having relationships in one city. So I think it's been a bit of I've really had to shift my understanding of what a connection and what a relationship is to encompass not being in the same geographic area. Because I think for me, not being able to be, your friends, like the ones who your people, like the people you see every week that you go out with, you experience things, and then suddenly not seeing them for months and months and months, and having that question of like, how can we connect? Where's our liberty now? So that's been one dynamic that just has been challenging, is having that sense, and also having that sense of like, how can you stay grounded when there's so much liberty, when you can go anywhere in the world, do anything, see anyone, and it's such a first world problems. It's like I can go anywhere in the world. It's like so hard to stay grounded, but there is like, I think it's worth mentioning when you're talking about a nomadic lifestyle, is like how do you have those grounding relationships? How do you have that sense of stability and grounding
Stability.
while you're kind of floating around, being like, like I'm doing whatever the
Versus,
f I want, like
I'm here now, I'm here,
yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah, that's definitely been because especially like even when I came to Mexico, there was a lot of people on my like routine that it's like it had to change, because especially you know this as when you do go to these places, you do meet a lot more people, and then these friends now come into your circle, so how was it like the early days when you started to venture off? Like what was like the adaptation? Like what was the yeah.
I'm going some months back now.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I was like, oh my goodness, I learned a lot, and I think I was like, what those early days. I think I was a little bit. I remember arriving. I went to Mexico. That was my first
Yes.
place where I was, and I think I kind of put like gas on all cylinders, and I was kind of like, I'm going to do everything,
Doing
and
this full blow,
like,
full blow, pedal to the metal.
exactly. So I'd wake up in the morning and I'd like have like some meetings, and I'd like go out walking and then go to like museum, then come back, then like some more work, and then like go out at night and then come back and like do any emails. And I think it lasted for, I don't know how long it lasted, but at a certain point I just was like, and I kind of, I remember like, I remember I had a day in bed where I was like, okay, I cannot just,
Yeah.
I cannot have energy from the very hour I wake up to the hour I go to sleep every day. It's like, maybe if I was like spring break in Cancun, I could like do that, but not like actually in terms of like a sustainable lifestyle, not possible.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that was like, and I think, and then after that, I was able to slow down a little bit, and I've definitely had some moments where that like that energy comes back, and I'm like, like I'm 20, and I'm definitely not 20, but like just feeling like I can do anything, like, and then just like boom, boom, boom,
boom, boom,
and
the music's here, like,
and then just like no, like calm down, you need to calm down.
Yeah,
it's like a Taylor Swift song, I think.
No, I agree. It's funny when I first came to Mexico City. Then immediately I went to Cancun, and it always felt when I got here the tempo. Like you have the music and the tempo's like, boom, boom, boom. The walls are vibrating. Then it's like I had to kind of bring it down because after a while I was like, oh, all right, I'm I'm a digital nomad. I still got to manage my work schedule, so I have to find a balance. Was that the same as well for you guys? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, totally. Yeah, like finding that balance, and I totally, because and when I talk about balance, like concretely, that means having like morning practices like meditation, journaling, making like I honestly my traveling tip that has like saved my life is having a blender where I travel and like making a really good morning smoothie, because
yes,
it honestly seems like the smallest, most like the silliest thing, but actually I realize it's a game changer, because it means it gives you like enough nutrients to like feel grounded and stable for your day. Afterwards you can go eat, but you're not like starving, and it completely changes the tone of my day versus like start waking up being like, oh, I'm gonna go maybe buy some street food, maybe it'll be good, maybe it won't be good, maybe I'll get
like a cafe, in the morning cafe. you know how many times I did that as like
oh my gosh. But the cafe, you don't even know if it's gonna be good. Like you might get something and then you're just like, oh, it's often cafe things that has kind of like sweet, salty, cheesy. So you're eating this like the cheese croissant coffee thing to start your day, and then you're just like, nah. Like versus eating this, like you're like, okay, I got like my greens, my fruits, I got like some like flax or whatever, and you're like, I'm ready. Completely, it's just so that's the kind of thing I'm talking about when it comes to grounding. Is being like, what are the rituals, what are the practices that no matter where you are in the world, they belong to you and they are part of your self-care routine.
Exactly. Yes. Wonderfully said. That was wonderfully said. I mean, it is a kind of like it's a self-care kind of thing as well. Because it's like especially the way you start the day. That's pretty much how you're going to be throughout the day. So if you're starting and you've got the right nutrients, you got your smoothie, and you're like, okay, I'm in the game. I'm in the zone.
I'm here. It's like, yeah,
it's not a problem. So really starting the day. And also as, because even, folks, you can see the energy of as, super, and I love that because we never relate. How did that get into like the motivation? Because I could already sense if we never even met before, I could already feel like he has that motivation. He can encourage, he can coach people. How did that, going to the, coaching and then eventually.
I think that loops us back to your gray cubicle thing, because for me, I've had moments of my life where I felt so unable to express myself, unable to explore, unable to experience, and just feeling like just so cloistered.
Yeah.
That I think for like the motivation, I think it was kind of like a counter attack to that, just being like, it's kind of like, it's like, no, it's like, I was like, I cannot, I was like, I need everything. Like I need to like, it's almost like shattering those walls. It's like, we're talking about the cubicle, the metaphor of cubicle. It's like,
it's a great metaphor. It's a great metaphor.
Yeah, then you break out of the cubicle, and like I say, it's I think freelancing, this kind of life is it can work really well for some people, and it can be hard for other people as well. Yeah. You have so much freedom and so many things you could be doing, and that's beautiful. It's beautiful and challenging. You need to have your own practices of being like, what am I focused on? What are my priorities? What's my vision for my life? Like those questions need to be really front and center. But the motivation for me came from being like, this is like a non-negotiable. Like I'm not,
right.
I have worked in 9-to-5 type things, and it was like, I non-negotiably will not do that in my life. that's I'm like a wilting flower. I literally wilt, and I just like, like that.
Did you ever find it like when you're in the 9-to-5? I remember when I was in my, like, you could say the cubicle. I'm not gonna get too descriptive on it, but there was always this big clock. There was this big clock like on the wall that I'd be looking at, like right here on the side of my eye, and I'd always be just watching it until it could go, until it finishes. So just waiting for the day end, not really absorbing like where I'm working, trying to gain knowledge or trying to improve myself, just waiting for the day to finish so I could really enjoy what I really want to do. Was that similar? Like, could I say?
Your story, it feels so sad for me to even hear that, because it's exactly like, this is exactly like a tragedy of our world. One of them, there's many, is that people sell their time for money doing things they don't want to be doing. So often long periods of time, like a 9-to-5, that's 8 hours of your day. And so the fact that you're watching the clock, you're like, I'm waiting for my life to end. Like I'm waiting for part of my life to end. it's like I wanted to do that notion of like killing time. Like that's sad. It's sad. And so I definitely can connect with that, like just doing things that I also had an office job at one point. It was like an inventory section for like a clothing company, and so it was cross-checking the inventory arriving with like what was in stock in this like 1990s computer system. I was like, and I just remember just being like, Dio mio, like I
you have a lot of conversations to yourself. Sometimes you'd be like, whoa, is this how my life's gonna be like? Am I, internal, like kind of monologues.
It's like you totally are having a conversation. That's a really good point. It's like, what's the conversation you're having with yourself? Is it that this is a temporary thing? Is it that this is my life? Is it like, what saved me in that job was the radio. It was like, it was a pop station radio. It would play pop songs, and it was the only thing I was like, the pop songs will carry me through. They're like, oh my gosh.
Give you a vibe, it's like, I feel like everyone has their kind of like escapism, from that, whether it could be like from the radio, maybe like watching a little video, on, YouTube or, something like that, Were there also like kind of influence for you as, like it's like you possibly watched before, you embarked on this journey, like any kind of like, idols who had already done it before?
Oh, like idol, like people sort of, I found a lot of places in my life to be like a little bit emergent, in the sense I haven't necessarily felt role models. In terms of, I could say that in terms of, I did listen to some podcasts, like digital nomad type podcasting, and I didn't quite connect to the people, because they were like, they're like, oh, like to get your SEO really high, do like content writing online and like get those marketing funnels going and like increase your conversion rate, increase your conversion rate and stuff. And I was like, this has nothing to do with my reality. And I also don't want to be like, ooh, where's the hottest spot? Like I'm going to Ibiza. Like I think I'm on like I'm in a bit of a different wavelength. So I think what I like to do with role models and stuff is like maybe be inspired by a little bit of what they're doing. Like, for instance, like the way they're handling their finances, their travel. But then also I had to find my own path, right? My own color, my own way of doing it. And same for facilitation. Like facilitation is a very specific field. Like it's like and everyone does it in their own specific way. So while I've had mentors or people that I've seen them do it and it's beautiful, inspiring, it ultimately is never what I end up doing because it needs to be your own color.
Exactly. It's only going to be, you have to make your own book, your own story, and it's not going to happen until you do it. You know, some people they kind of paint it's like the blueprint of like, okay, I can go to like Ecuador, and go stay here. I can go to Colombia, Mexico, but until you actually step over, then you actually realize, okay, now this is the true experience.
Exactly. This is the true experience for you in that moment in your life, and which can be completely different from any other inspiration that you have to get.
That's perfect. So with the traveling as you said, you have your Zoom calls, for the coaching and that. How, because I will even speak for me, definitely managing, especially the schedule, especially when you're on more of a trajectory, it's like you're getting more influx of people want to do coach, people want to hear, more students and that. How is managing that and also still enjoy, embracing the new place, you're in currently? How is the,
those are some tensions, right? Like, how are you present for your clients, managing your schedule? Things that have been helpful for me in that regard. First of all, having on my calendar both multiple time zones, like being able to compare them, because the number of times I've messed up time zones and being clear is high. It actually sounds like silly, but it changes everything when you actually have multiple time zones listed, so you can actually. That works well for me. Another thing that's worked well for me is not answering people right away. Like I have sort of a 24-hour-ish about people,
like a little window, just to be like, okay, because
otherwise people
confirm. Yes, that's 100%.
Or if I have clients who they'll book me for a meeting without asking me my schedule, and just that whole thing of barriers, limits, like being like boundaries. That's the word. Boundaries. Just being like, no, you cannot book me whenever you want. These are my availabilities, and there's some options. I know some people use things like Calendly, like for other people to book them, but I actually don't do that because I really like to keep a really clear, I guess, control over my schedule. For instance, that if I want a travel day, it's a travel day. And I really want to be able to travel without thinking about clients, about meetings. And if someone's like, oh, can we do like a little touch base on the phone? And my answer is no. The answer is we can't. And people, what I find with boundaries is that people actually, if you're clear with them, people are totally fine. But if you're like, oh, like maybe we could do like a little call, and suddenly you're in the bus with like spotty internet connection, and you're like, sorry, I can't hear you, and you're like, why did I?
The lighting is a bit off. Let me go to this direction.
Exactly. Like, what is going on? Oh my gosh, exactly.
No, I 100% agree, because I had to learn this after, because especially when I came, to Mexico, I'm not gonna lie, just gonna keep it real, guys. It was slow in the beginning, so it's like I was at one point accepting some I didn't need to accept. I'm going to be honest, at the beginning. But then when things started to go, the trajectory started to go more higher, that's when I was like, I need to put the barriers, as you said, in place, and I noticed, as you said, they respect you more when you can be like, no, this is not the day for me. I am totally off the clock. We're going to reschedule for another time. It has that professionalism in there, so.
Oh my gosh, exactly. I think respect does play a role. I think people begin it's like in any relationship. It could be a friendship, it could be a romantic relationship, it could be a professional relationship. When someone says, let's hang out, and you're like, I'm not available that day. What about this day? Instead of being like, maybe I'm available, like, it's so it's not clean communication.
Yes,
And so I'm glad
yes.
that you were able to transition to a point of
Yeah, yeah.
perhaps more opportunities, and not just being like, I guess I'll take this contract. I guess I'll
Yeah,
take
yeah, yeah, yeah,
this. Like,
yeah. That's the thing. It's already like a low kind of a look on you. If you could be like, oh, you weren't you already had this day off and you said like, oh yeah, yeah, I can do it. It's like, what are they gonna really think of you? It's like,
yeah, yeah,
you know what I
exactly.
mean? Exactly. Hey. So, and you just mentioned it, like, with like even relationships, with friends, partners and that, if for some people the traveling can be a you could say like it can be a fact. Sometimes it can be a positive, sometimes it can be a negative in that, especially like with me, my partner, my girlfriend, sometimes it has like even when I was in Canada, when I met you as and it's there, it was sometimes it can strain it because they're always like wondering, what if it, like where is he in that, checking on things and how is that for you as it's like the managing your friends, family, the whole relationship.
So how do I handle relationships while traveling with
While
that
on the traveling.
added?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have found that, I guess what comes to mind for me is like really upping the intentionality of my relationships and the communication.
Right.
So really being clear about which friends really matter to me and
Yes.
who I want to be really putting energy and time into. And the other ones, it doesn't mean that I would say it doesn't mean I don't care about them, but it does mean they aren't my priority. And so those people taking way longer to respond, not prioritizing them, simply because I think I was realizing that I couldn't be everyone's best friend while traveling. If you have your WhatsApp with like 20 messages, and I'm like, you know what, I can't. I know who my people are that I really want to show up for, including my family, and I'm going to communicate really intentionally with them. And it does add an extra level of complexity when you're traveling.
Yeah.
So I have tried to identify those people that really I've let them know, being like, I'm traveling, I'm here for you.
Yes.
If you need something, I'm here for you. If you need me to come back for you, I'm there for you.
Yeah.
Like it's like, and I think that sort of sense of stability in the relationship is really important versus this thing of like spreading out to everyone being like a mediocre friend. Like, I'm half here for you, but not really. Like I keep doing this motion because I feel like kind of happens when you travel. You could just kind of be like, I'm everything and nothing, and I have no and my relationships aren't solid and deep.
Yeah, nothing's like it's not like layered, anymore because you're a fit. But on like if from the other side, I think they have to even understand as well. Like Ez is out here. He's working as a digital nomad. He's pretty much his own boss. Sometimes they would have to see it from their side. He for some people as and this. So some people like there is a pivotal thing for holding them back to kind of do what we do. To be like, okay, we're gonna take this journey. We're gonna put the pedal to the metal and just explore. So sometimes they don't understand it. So they'll just be like, why isn't he contacting me now? Man.
You're like, oh my goodness. I've actually, so I'm into polyamory, which is basically the practice of you can have multiple partners.
Right.
It's a whole world of, it's a whole world. There's lots of possibilities within that field of polyamory. But a common theme that I identified is like really, really good communication. And that's been, and I started that while I started traveling. I was like, I'm just doing everything. I'm just going to start. So what that involved was having like really clear conversations up front with people. Yes. Like, this is what I'm into. This is what I can offer right now. This is what I can offer afterwards. And I had, oh my goodness, like the number of conflicts and like hard conversations I've had.
Right.
But ultimately I think that they were important, and I'm glad that I had those moments because they were healthy, what I call like a healthy conflict. Yes. As in like I'm expressing myself clearly and the person is expressing themselves clearly, and then we go from there. Right. So I'll say that your question around like how am I managing relationships and travel and polyamory has been really, I've just grown a lot in terms of communication and gone. There's this thing of like when you are first interacting with someone, and whether it's professional or friendship or romantic, whatever, that thing of can you really just be clear and be like, this is exactly what I'm looking for. This is what I can provide you. And what I've realized is that if you can do that, and it's hard, everything down the relationship is easier. Versus at that very first point, offering a false snapshot of who you are or what you're looking for. and then from there continually having to like lie, adapt, like misunderstand. So that's my theory, is like from the very beginning, that initial like sprouting, like sort of little plant of the relationship, can you be fully in clear communication and aligned with who you are?
That was brilliant. Yeah, from like the get-go, you're saying like, okay, this is who I am. You're gonna either accept me or you're not gonna accept me, but I'm not going to add like a false kind of image, down the line, because that's one reason. I think that's where the breaks, the big errors come up in relationships. You know what I mean? Because they just weren't honest, from the beginning.
Oh yeah, totally. Breaks, definitely. And like in Latin America, polyamory is not a thing necessarily, but it's very big in the States, it's big in Canada. It's so it's like it leads to some of the conversations people are like, but I think like we said about like accepting, like there's a real possibility when you first start a relationship, when you are real, that they reject you. And again, I say this across the board for relationships, because like let's say with a client, I have a client that can come and they could say, we're looking for someone to do this like flashy thing without any content, like without any like real pedagogy. And if I'm from the very beginning, what I should be saying is actually, I'm not into that. That's not what I can offer you. That's not what I want to do. Like enjoy, here are some names, people that might be able to offer that. And then they're like, okay, great. Versus like 3-4 months on the line to end the project and being like, well, you didn't really do what we wanted you to do. Or I feel like you're
not really what we were,
exactly. Oh gosh.
You know what I mean? And funny, that even relates back to even what we were talking about, the jobs. Like especially even for me, I was doing a lot of jobs just for the, just for the money. I'm just gonna keep it real. So I wasn't really harnessing on my skills and my like specialities that I learned, through my journeys. It was just like, okay, I can go here, and it's like, this is gonna give me the quick cash that I can use for my other things, So it even applies, especially to where you carry yourself, in the work.
Oh yeah, it was, and I hear what you're saying there. It's like this notion of compromising your values to make money, and I want to acknowledge that also can happen. And it's like a place of huge privilege to be able to say no to financial opportunities based off of a value match or not. Like, as in, sometimes it's like, I need to pay the rent. Who will pay me? Like, who? Like, someone. Like, it's like someone. I don't care. I'll be washing your toilet. It's like, I just need to.
Exactly. Yeah, they talk about like, it's like, making ends meet. They especially like, it's like, you got to do like, rent is like at this day, like a week from now. What can I do? So and there's a lot of people. Do you think that's the majority now, like in this age? Do you think the majority are still in that that lifestyle of like, they're living like, I hate to say it because I wasn't, but the paycheck to paycheck life, and not really like taking a risk, like saying, okay, I'm gonna go after my dreams. Do you think it's the majority, or what would you say?
Well, the thought that comes to mind for me is a couple thoughts actually. One thought is just like I have 5 siblings.
Right.
And we came from the same family.
Right.
With the same DNA, ostensibly, but we have, all 6 of us have different relationships to saving and to money.
Right.
And including within that spectrum, there's people living, month to month, and includes people who never spend anything and just are like saving up, like, I will buy the world, whatever it is. So I think like the reason I'm saying that is I think there is a part of that question is the actual financial reality of how much money you actually earn, and what country you're living in, and all of those factors. But there is like a factor when it comes to your actual relationship to money, which through this experience with my siblings, I was like, oh, it actually is unique to each person. And so that was nice to see, because it shows that we have, even if there's not a lot of income coming in, we always can make budget sheets. We always can set financial goals. Like, these things, that never changes, no matter what financial bracket you're in. Yes. There's this. I saw this thing on Instagram. There was this. It's a song. It's called like "Stop Being Poor." Have you seen? It's a joke. it's making fun of people that say that just like stop being poor, like just get rich, because it's just like, it's like, and in the song they're like, the cycle of poverty is a myth, like intergenerational wealth is a myth, and it's like but these things are not myths. Like the whole point of the song is like that you can't just be like stop being poor, like just get like there's also, I want to like talk about, there's also a systemic lifting up and pushing down of people financially, and just beyond financially, just in society, that is also part of that question of like living month to month versus being like, I have so much wealth.
I can get a yacht, I can ride
like
a
yeah, please invite me, I'd like to go.
Oh man. summer, let's see where we got like breaks in our schedules.
Yeah, totally, we'll schedule it.
totally and because even with that, like would you say that it's a mindset as well, not necessarily like getting rich, but just moving from the employee kind of lifestyle to more of like okay, I'm managing schedules, you're coming to me, for coaching. You think it's like a mindset you have to develop, or you already have to be born with? What do you
Oh, I think yeah, you can learn it. I think it definitely is a mindset. I totally agree with you. People talk about like scarcity versus abundant mindset, and here's this like employee versus entrepreneur mindset. And an employee, it's a completely different. An employee mindset is, I want someone else to recognize the value in me to give me a better position. And I'm gonna prove to them in this power structure of the organization my value. Versus, I know my value, and I'm gonna sell it, and I'm gonna like do whatever I want. And no one needs to like, and I'm not like, I'm accountable to myself and to my values, but I'm not accountable to a boss who's going to look at my salary at the end of the month and be like, or what I did, being like, you did a good job. So that power authority, it for me, it was like a seismic shift. Like I felt like I had to break my inner employee. I had to like break it. And people don't understand how hard that is. Honestly, I don't think it's complete different way of living your life.
Yeah. I can it's funny, when you were talking, I even felt like I felt goosebumps, because I remember like making that a distinctive change to say, okay, I'm no longer gonna be on that pathway of like, I'm just coming in at this time, you tell me to come at this time, you tell me to have my break at this time, you want me to wear the uniform that says Richard, right here. Exactly, whereas I just saw the picture like, hey, I had to make a change. And when I made the change, as like, there was no one with me, there was no one be like, oh yeah, let's do it, like we can do it. It was a solo thing. So it was the first time for me, I really had to really think and be really precise on decision making. Is this the right thing? Managing your money, for instance, like how all of this is going to cost when I come to, Mexico and that, was that like kind of similar, like, making some...
Yeah, oh, definitely. Like that, it is, there's like that breaking, or that like being like, oh, I'm managing everything. And it feels overwhelming, right, at first, because you're just like, you could do anything, like an online course. You could like enter into a new industry. You could have like your passive income streams. You can do all those things. So I think it's scary at first, but I think ultimately it leads to a sense of like the people that I know that have been doing freelancing for a long time. If they are able to make it work, I feel like they are like flowers blooming, because it's a huge compliment from the world. You're doing what you love, and people want it, and you're able to make a living and enjoy it. So I love that image that you said of you with a name tag, because it speaks to that idea of like needing to please, and needing to be like having your iron shirt, and it's like, and having just that level, that normative understanding of what it means to be a professional. And as a freelancer, you can actually make your own definition. So like, you can be speaking to your client, and you can be like, oh, I didn't sleep very well, and I have gas or something. And they're just like, okay, I'm sorry. But that's part of it. Like, you could communicate as a person. If you were an employee, and maybe you'd have that relationship with your boss, maybe not.
Oh man, it was less. When you were saying that, as just like you could have like these Zoom calls and just kind of be more of you, not just this kind of faceless robot, as they want you, like the drones and that. Um, for me, and this is one thing I even like so glad to even talk about this with you guys. Like, when that happened, when I made the shift, it was coming for a while, and it's like the way things happened in 2020, I was like, okay, bam, it's now or ever. I hate to switch. I had people around me who kind of looked at me and said, like, "Oh, well, what are you doing? Like, what, you're gonna go Mexico? You think you can do it?" So I had a lot of, you could say, detractors who just kind of put it down because they didn't understand it. So for you, as was there, especially in the early stages, was there like kind of those unsupported?
Like, yeah, it was like voices being like, "You can't do like, yeah, my goodness." That well, I just want to say, like, while one thing that came to me while you were speaking was that it's like you are living a dream right now. You live part-time in Canada, you live part-time in Mexico, you teach language classes online, you do fitness online, you have like you do podcasts, like your entire business. And like it's like, so I want to say that, which is awesome. Like for me, it's inspiring to see. And so I just, yeah.
I appreciate it so much.
The reason I say that is because for those, I hope that the original detractors, I'm just sending this energy of you now to them to be like, this is where he landed. So please take your negative energy.
Push it far away.
Push it far away. Yeah. And for me, I think a lot of people, let me think. So in my specific path, I went from being very like not earning almost any money in my industry and being like very quote unquote unsuccessful.
Right.
But and I felt like kind of like a hatching egg. So I went from that, but like very quickly, it went from that to being very successful in the sense of having contracts and a reputation and having a network. But it was like almost like overnight. So when I began. I've been doing freelancing for about 5 years now.
Okay.
When that transition happened, it was right when I was in like the upward turn towards getting and having
the pendulum was swinging. Yeah.
So by that time, everyone was kind of like, oh, like, wow. Like, but I guess during the period when I was like washing dishes and like trying and like like I'd be earning like I don't even know like 11,000 a year or something like I don't know like I'd be like
the average minimum wage salary. Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah, we've been there. I think my people were kind of it was kind of like they were supportive and they're like, you're doing great, like keep you're doing great, like not necessarily
the door's gonna open, so you go.
Yeah, they're kind of like like my says, I'm not sure if they knew it would work out. I think they were supportive of me, but I don't think that they sensed that it would work out for me, and neither did I. So no one knew that it was going to work out. I think we were all kind of just like, this is not looking pretty.
Yeah. The early stage, and what I commend you for is that even like whilst you were doing like on the journey, it's like even though you couldn't see it, you knew it was there, because there was something that still kept drawing you. I mean, I think that's what a lot of like entrepreneurs have, and even just like ones who are doing coaching and that, it's like they have that thing like, okay, it's not now, but it will happen. And as you said, like the trajectory changed, like went from there to like overnight. So.
Oh yeah, and what you're talking about, it's like there's that Otto Scharmer talks about like leaning into the emerging future. It's like this notion. I think that happens all the time. Like these things where you're like, I can't name it. I don't know what it is, but I'm feeling into something, and I think that's that same feeling is what led me into this digital nomad-esque life. It's just this feeling of I don't know what it looks like, but there's something here. I don't have the words for it. But eventually the words come. But what needs to come first is like the intuition, the body sensation, the notion of being like, I'm sensing there's a possibility that's here.
Exactly. In some ways, it's kind of like a destiny. I do believe sometimes, like, I don't know how religious you are as or like me, but, sometimes there are forces out of our, world that are working, sometimes it's like, I do believe things happen for a reason, It's like, I'm a strong believer, like we had to go through that of, with the name tag, working those positions, like, okay, boss, I can't do overtime today. No, you are, we had to change that, to get to this position, so.
Oh, well, I'm a huge believer in awful experiences like helping you get really clear on what you do want.
Yes.
And it's like if I hadn't worked those experiences, I wouldn't be able to appreciate what I have today in the same depth. Likewise for across the board. And not to say that not that like toxic positivity, just being like, I'm so happy that I had such a horrible experience. but there is like a sense of like there's like a deep empathy for yourself and the world that comes when you do things that are challenging, or when you have a relationship that's hard. And then afterwards when you have a relationship that feels light and easy, you're like, oh my God, like is this even, am I allowed to do this? It's so wonderful, you know?
Well, yeah, it's like you understand it more, especially like when the time has passed. You know, when you've gone forward, it's like you remember those times when it was like the struggle. You know, and it really does build character. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to tell, I give anyone their badges and their merits, especially if you're gonna travel alone. You know, I'm gonna go like to Mexico. I'm gonna go Colombia. I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna set up. You know, that takes an high amount of confidence and belief, you know.
Oh, totally. Believing, definitely. And that when it's amazing is that afterwards it feels easy, right? Because you're like, for you now, it's probably no big deal. Like, oh, head to Mexico City, like walk around, get a place to stay, easy. But for someone else, that could be like what? Like alone?
They speak Spanish, you know that.
I learn another language. It's like, but that's the whole notion of like growth, right? It's like you sense into the intuition, you believe in yourself, you take the leap, and it becomes easier. And what's beautiful is that it's continual, because now, I mean, you have a learning edge now, doubtless. So do I. It grows, and the learning edge gets bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm. As long as you're staying in there, and it's like you just, because we're going to be honest, even Ez knows this, there are going to be times that are hard. You know, that's just the way it is. You know, it's going to have your high days, and you're going to have days and low, but it's just like, it can be cliche to say like, never give up on that, but it's just like, staying, consistent on like what you want to achieve.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a good point about the consistency, because you do have that kind of like this kind of thing.
That fluctuate,
the fluctuation, but are you still going in the same direction?
Yes.
And if you like, I mean, there's a book, I think it's Atomic Habits, which I read, which is just talks about like how your little habits you do every day are exponential.
Right.
And so as long as, even if you're fluctuating, if you're doing these little things every day in the direction of your goal, it eventually like does that thing where the egg hatches.
Yes.
And the egg hatches, the cubicle board walls break down. Yes.
Shattered dust.
I have like an image of like all the 90s babies here, like of like a giant Yoshi egg, and then Yoshi egg like pops open, the cubicle walls like break down, and then I have like a Yoshi like running out of the office and like
exactly. Oh my God. Speaking of the nights, when you mentioned the cubicles in the office, I keep remembering the first scene in Matrix, the movie Keanu Reeves, when before he goes into the Matrix world, he's in the reality of, he's in his cubicle, he's in just the day-to-day, life, and he goes into this different realm, he takes a risk, and now he's into this whole different universe. So it's very weird, parallels to what we're doing now.
Totally. And in the new Matrix movie they did, there's this amazing scene, like it's a montage of him going through the same routine every day, but kind of like losing it a little bit, like, and it's just I felt like that little montage captured perfectly what a lifeless routine is. And I think like White Rabbit or something, some like Jefferson Airplane song playing or something. It's just is like very, very good.
It really captures the whole the status quo, what it is for some
exactly.
Yeah, some people it's just it's just like I think we, especially for us, like journeymen, because he's digital nomad, but I think we're also journeymen. There is a certain kind of, what I mean? I think that's such a cool tag, like the journeyman.
A journeyman.
So cool. I think there's a sense of adventure as well. I definitely felt, especially for me, as when I came to Mexico, that was like there's so much I could do here. It's like an adventure. This is something I can tell people. Like I came to Mexico, solo, and I was like, it's.
Yes, totally. And I like that. I like that journeyman, the adventure. It is like there's the digital nomad thing, and but beyond that, there is like the there is that inner sense. And going back to the, I guess, full circle, that sense of exploration or adventure.
Yeah.
Totally present. Yeah, totally.
Exactly. Yeah. So as like, just to like, round up, you know what I mean? Because yeah, you laid down a lot of jewels, you know what I mean, for like, digital nomads, embarking on your passions and dreams. What would you give like some tips? Like, say if there's someone now, to say, I would take risk and just journey, what would you, what advice could you give to them?
Yeah, advice was wanting to like journey, explore yeah, I would say my main piece of advice is that there's so much advice out there and there's so many models out there. And what's fascinating is that none of it actually is what you need.
Right.
Like what you actually need is to tune into your own felt sense of what is emerging in your future and what you deeply desire for your life.
Yes.
And I think from that place, it's like a place of infinitely more power than following someone's routine or schedule, because it's actually based off of your own intuition and life power. And that's what actually brings you in this direction of adventure exploration, because it's actually tuned to you. That's my main piece of advice to people.
No, I summarize, like, it's like you're not gonna really, until you actually go there and get your kind of feet wet, then you will understand when you're there. So that was
totally.
As I gotta say, I really appreciate you taking time, your busy schedule, for coming on this. As where can they find you? If they ever want to have a contact for like a coaching, or mentoring system, where can they find you?
So feel free to reach out if you have, for coaching, or also if you're working in an organizational context, if you'd like to be working together. My website is just my name. It's asbridgman.com. And you can also reach out on LinkedIn to me.
Right.
But also I want to thank you for your energy, your questions. It's just a pleasure sharing with another wanderer, explorer, in this great big world. And I look forward to, our paths crossing in the future.
Oh yeah, perfect. So I will put all of as like links, where you can contact me in the description below. All will be down below. So definitely, contact as, like I said, so yes, folks, thank you for watching, this video with Richie Rich and myself.
Yeah, my gosh, I'm into it. Yeah,
that's it. With that. So yes, take care and have a fabulous day. So take care and peace. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Yeah.